This video continues the study of the reign of Hezekiah, who was a very good king over Judah, and this entire chapter 29 covers the restoration of worship in the temple. And back in the book of Kings, it is given only 3 verses. He has cleansed the temple of idol worship and inappropriate items, and we are ready then to pick it up in verse 12. Then the Levites arose, Mahath, the son of Amasai, and Joel, the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites. Kohathites are one of the major families of the tribe of Levi. In the wandering years, when they moved the tabernacle, the Kohathites were responsible for moving the Ark of the Covenant and other holy things that were in the temple. And of the sons of Merari, Kish, the sons of Abdi, and Azariah, son of Jehaliel. Now, once again, these are the Merarites are one of the 3 major families out of the house of Levi. And of the Gershonites, Joah, the son of Zumah, and Eden, the son of Joah. Now, these 3 families of the house of Levi are Levites. They are not priests. However, each one of these families have responsibilities in the temple. 13. And of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri, and Jeiel, and the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah. Now, these first ones, Elizaphan, they are a division of the Kohathites. And in the second one, the family of Asaph, Asaph was one of the 3 musical directors, and we are now 14 generations from David who laid this out. Now, here, these are his actual descendants. They are his children. And in earlier, we had the sons of Asaph, and they were not his biological children, but rather his students, musical students. 14. And of the sons of Heman, Jehiel and Shimei, and the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaha and Uzziel. And I would point out that Jeduthun is also called Ethans in other places. And once again, we have 14 persons listed. 14 is a very important number in the reign of Hezekiah, and 14 is the number of salvation and deliverance. 15. And they gathered their brethren and sanctified themselves and came according to the commandment of the king by the words of the Lord to cleanse the house of the Lord. So they are still working to get this temple fit to eventually have a large Passover in the kingdom. 16. And the priests went into the inner part of the house of the Lord to cleanse it, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of the Lord into the court of the house of the Lord, and the Levites took it to carry it out abroad into the brook Kidron. Now, these Levites earlier that we mentioned were not priests. A priest that would have been a descendant of Aaron, and they went into the inner part or the inner court, and only they could enter there. And they took the filth and put it in the brook of Kidron, and the brook of Kidron is actually a dry gulch. And an earlier king, if you have been following this study, Joash, his mother had a huge Ashtaroth, and he smashed it into pieces, and he put that into the brook of Kidron. And there had been quite a lot of idolatry in the temple. 17. Now they began on the first day of the first month to sanctify, and on the 8th day of the month came they to the porch of the Lord. So they sanctified the house of the Lord in 8 days, and in the 16th day of the first month they made an end. Now the first month is Abib or Nisan, and it is in the spring, and it is the religious calendar begins at the first of that month. And then another calendar, the civil year, begins in September. Important here, the number 14. The Passover should have been celebrated on the 14th day after the first day of this month. But on the all the way out unto the 16th day, they are still working to clean. So they have not been able to observe the Passover on the correct time. 18. Then they went to Hezekiah the king and said, We have cleansed all the house of the Lord, and the altar of burnt offering with all the vessels thereof, and the showbread table with all the vessels thereof. In other words, they have everything now in order for worship. All of the inside of the temple. It's either been cleaned, and what couldn't be cleaned has been replaced. 19. Moreover, all the vessels which King Ahaz in his reign did cast away in his transgression, have we prepared and sanctified, and behold, they are before the altar of the Lord. Cast away there means that he had misused them. He had in idolatry, and that is why they had to be sanctified. 20. Then Hezekiah the king rose early and gathered the rulers of the city and went up to the house of the Lord. 21. And they brought 7 bullocks and 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 he-goats for the sin offering for the kingdom, and for the sanctuary, and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar. Only the priests could make this offering. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7 fours are, of course, the number 7 is in biblical numerics, spiritual completion. And the first part was for the sin of the nation, and they did not use that altar. Remember, Ahaz visited up in Damascus and saw an altar to worship an idol, and he had the pattern of it sent down to Jerusalem and had an altar made, so they would not have used that. Now, the sin offering has to go before the burnt offering is an approach, and the sin first before you can have a voluntary offering. 21. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them, and we did that. 22. So they killed the bullocks, and the priest received the blood and sprinkled it on the altar. Likewise, when they had killed the rams, they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. They killed also the lambs and sprinkled the blood upon the altar. Leviticus 4 and 30 through 34, and also Leviticus 8:15 points out that the details of this part of the offering, and they did not pour blood on the altar. Rather, they applied blood to the horns on the altar, and they poured the rest out around the bottom, poured out. But they did not actually pour that blood upon the altar. If you wish for a study on how that law was laid down, how this was done, look at Leviticus 4:30 through 34. 23. And they brought forth the he-goats for the sin offering before the king and the congregation, and they laid their hands on them. Now, they were laying the hand on is a symbolic act of taking on that sin, and then they consumed the sin offering. In other words, they took the sin on themselves, transferring the sin offering onto themselves as the priest, just as Jesus took our sin upon himself. Verse 24, to continue, and the priest killed them, and they made reconciliation with their blood upon the altar to make atonement for all Israel, for the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. So this first offering here, the sin offering, is for the entire nation. Notice that he said Israel, and he is including not just that Judah, the part of Judah, but you're going to see that he is going to invite those who are in the north, who are called Israel, to a Passover that he certainly will hold. 25, and he set the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals, with psalteries, and with harps, according to the commandment of David, and of Gad the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet, for so was the commandment of the Lord by the prophet. That word seer does mean a prophet. These are singers and musicians, and David laid that out, how it was to be done. 26. And the Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priest with the trumpets. And Hezekiah commanded to offer the burnt offering upon the altar. And when the burnt offering began, the song of the Lord began also with the trumpets, and with the trumpets, and with the instruments ordained by David, king of Israel. and these trumpets are used, if you want to read a bit more about that. Numbers 10, the trumpets were used during the move to the Promised Land. It was almost like a bugle call in the army before they had ways of communication. A certain sound. Think of all of the numbers of persons who were traveling there in the wilderness, and the silver trumpet was used to move out in order by threes. They moved out 4 times, three families, and then 3 more. And that silver trumpet was used in many, many ways. But here we have it at this altar where sin of the entire nation is being offered up to the Lord for forgiveness. And the 26, and with the Levites stood, and the Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priest with the trumpets. So the priests were the ones who did hold these trumpets. 27, and Hezekiah commanded to offer the burnt offering upon the altar. And when the burnt offering began, the song of the Lord began also with the trumpets, and with the trumpets ordained by the king of Israel. I got a bit ahead of myself and put 27 up ahead, and I have explained that these were the singers and musicians, and they were ordained and laid out in order by David the king. And this is praise and in song. 28, and all the congregation worshipped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded, and all this continued until the burnt offering was finished. So everyone was in worship and praise until this was finished. 29, and when they had made an end of offering, the king and all that were present with him bowed themselves and worshipped. All of them worshipped. And Hezekiah is showing himself to be an exemplary leader in leading this worship. 30. Moreover, Hezekiah, the king, and the princes commanded the Levites to sing praises unto the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. Now, all of those musicians, you want to think Asaph was a prophet. He was one of the directors of music, but all of those directors were also prophets. And they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. A very fitting end to the cleansing of the trumpet to have this worship. 31. Then Hezekiah answered and said, Now ye have consecrated yourselves unto the Lord. Come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings unto the house of the Lord. And the congregation brought in sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many as were of a free heart, burnt offerings. Now, these are what is done willingly, a thank offering, and all the offerings that come from other than the sin offering. And it says with a willing heart. And we are told in 2 Corinthians that the Lord loves a cheerful giver. When anything is given that we feel as though we have to give it, or we are commanded or ordered to give it, does not give us full measure with the Lord. The peace offering, some of the fat would have been burnt. Fat belonged to God. And the heave offering and the wave offerings were for the priest, and the rest of it would have been for the offerer and for anyone he invited. So this means that there's going to be much meat for a feast. 31. Then Hezekiah answered and said, Now you have consecrated yourselves unto the Lord. And we did that, I'm sorry. And they did come in and offer these sacrifices that came willingly from the heart. 32. And the number of the burnt offerings which the congregation brought was 70 bullocks, 100 rams, and 200 lambs. All these were for a burnt offering to the Lord. Now, 70 bullocks and Israel's restoration, meaning 100 means a child of promise, and 200 means insufficiency. In other words, no matter how much we give or they gave, we cannot pay for the mercy and grace. And the wonderful thing here is that these were spontaneous offerings. 33. And the consecrated things were 600 oxen and 3,000 sheep. These would have been thank offerings, and that they would have been prepared by the priest. The flaying of these animals, and they are going to have some help because there's so many animals to prepare for the offering that they were going to have to get some help, even though Leviticus says that the priests are to do this. But the priests were too few, so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. Wherefore their brethren the Levites did help them, till the work was ended, and until the other priests had sanctified themselves, for the Levites were more upright in heart to sanctify themselves to the priest. Now that we're questioning. Why were some not clean and able to participate, such that they had to get non-priest Levites to help? Well, the Levites, priests, likely in Ahaz's time, were forced or made to participate in offering idols, or offering sacrifice to idols, and likely the other Levites were not participating in that, and they would have been using that altar that he copied from King Rezin up in Damascus, not the altar that should have been used anyway. 35. And also the burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings and the drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of the house of the Lord was set in order. And the drink offering, if you wish to know more about it, look at Numbers 15 and verse 1. 36 to complete this chapter. And Hezekiah rejoiced, and all the people that God had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. Let us look at Numbers 15:1 about the drink offering so that we can understand it. Numbers 15, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak to the children, and say to them, When we be come into the land of your habitations, which I give you, and will make an offering by fire unto the Lord, a burnt offering, or a sacrifice in performing a vow, or in a freewill offering, or in your solemn feast, to make a sweet savor unto the Lord of the herd or of the flock. Then he that offereth his offering to the Lord, being a meat offering of a tenth deal of flour mingled with the fourth part of oil, and the fourth part of the hin of wine for a drink offering. A hin of wine, that would be about a quart of wine for a drink offering, shalt thou prepare with the burnt offering or sacrifice for one lamb. So there you see it is a hin, or about a quart of wine. That would be the drink offering. So to the end of this chapter, we see that it was a joyous time. We will now look at chapter 30 and move through the first 9 verses. 1. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Lord. So he is sending messengers with these letters. And it's now 12 generations down since there has been a Passover that included all of Israel and Judah and Benjamin, all of the tribes. And it's addressed to Ephraim and Manasseh, descendants of Joseph, because they are the largest of the 10 tribes, and they are invited to come to Jerusalem, which is where the Passover is held. 2. For the king had taken counsel, and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem, to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. Now, Numbers 15 tells us that if they're unable to, if they miss the 1st month to have a Passover, then it can be done on the 2nd month. And if you wish to look at Numbers 9:6 and on a few verses, and that sets that out. So this is absolutely within the law. It's not something that Hezekiah made up to have the Passover in the 2nd month. He could not have it in the 1st because the temple was not clean. 3. For they could not keep it at that time, because the priest had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. 4. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. 5. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come keep the Passover unto the Lord God of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it for a long time in such sort as it was written. Beersheba all the way to the south, and Dan to the north. And it's been 12 years since that, 12 generations, not years, since that split. 6. So the post went with the letters from the king and princes throughout all Israel and Judah, and according to the commandments of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remnant of you that are escaped out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. Okay, Israel there, the God-given name for Jacob. And post, they're Korahites, and it means executioners, but they execute a decree. They're not putting people to death. So it's all through Judah and Israel. And there were some in Israel that were not carried away. And we know that Tilgath-Pileser took some, and then Shalmaneser took some. But a few remain. There are a remnant. Remember, God said he would always have a remnant. 7. And be not like your fathers, and like your brethren, which trespassed against the Lord God of their fathers, who therefore gave them up to desolation, as we see. He said, don't be carried away or scattered together. 8. Now ye be not stiff-necked, as your fathers were, but yield yourselves unto the Lord, and enter into the sanctuary, which he hath sanctified forever, and serve the Lord your God, that the fierceness of his wrath may turn away from you. He is saying, return to the Lord. Don't be stubborn. And of course, blessings and cursings are laid out in Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 28. And yield to give hand. 9. For if, here's the condition, you turn again unto the Lord, your brethren and your children, and shall find compassion before them that lead them captive, so that they shall come again unto this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you, if you return unto him. And this is return to the Lord. Be not carried away. And in verse 10, so the post passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even into Zebulun, and they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. 11. Nevertheless, divers of Asher, or means some of Asher, and Manasseh and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. And that laughed to scorn, Zakok, means to deride. And so some of them did come down to Jerusalem to worship. And 12, to complete this lesson. Also in Judah, the hand of God was to give them one heart, to do the commandment of the king and of the princes by the word of the Lord. This completes this lesson. The next lesson will pick up in this chapter 30 with verse 13. Thank you for listening, and the call here to humble ourselves. We are told, of course, in Matthew 23 that if we exalt ourselves, we will be abased, and if we humble ourselves, God will exalt us. This video is an outreach of the Essex Methodist Church in Essex, Missouri, and the Crossroads Global Methodist Church in Dexter, Missouri.